What happened at the World Trade Center was a terrible tragedy, and what I'm going to talk about is a small, little, bizarre Michael Jackson part of that tragedy. And while this is definitely a sensitive topic, I think it's interesting to look at what's true and what might be made up. I sometimes see this meme that Michael Jackson and occasionally Seth MacFarlane almost met their fate at the World Trade Center. Funny thing is, when I see this meme, I always think that's not the Michael Jackson rumor I know. The one I know involves Liz Taylor and Marlon Brando, but we'll get to that. This story first originated in 2011 in the memoir You Are Not Alone, Michael, Through a Brother's Eyes, the Jermaine Jackson memoir. And he tells the story about how Michael missed a meeting that would have been in the World Trade Center on September 11th, but he overslept. Jermaine said he didn't know about the meeting in advance, which makes sense. Why would he know all of his brother's meetings? And my goodness, his brother had to have a lot of them. Jermaine explained that his mother, who's also Michael Jackson's mother, Catherine Jackson, called Michael in the morning to check on him when she heard the news. Now, she had been with Michael Jackson right there in New York City up until 3 a.m. They were apparently chatting the night away. Michael went on to tell his mom, "You saved my life," without even realizing it. He said, "Mother, I'm okay thanks to you. You kept me up talking so late that I overslept and missed my appointment." Interestingly, there is no record of Michael Jackson talking about this at any point during his lifetime. He was very open in interviews and would tell very personal stories, and he talked a lot about September 11th. Here's a clip where a reporter asked him what he thought of September 11th.
Just what are your thoughts about 9/11 being here in New York?
I hated it.
He hated it. Another man named Frank Cascio, who had been an assistant to Michael Jackson, wrote a book called My Friend Michael. It also came out in 2011, and he spoke of this meeting, but he said that it was he, Frank, that was supposed to be at the meeting and not Michael. In the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, Michael Jackson wrote and recorded a charity single called What More Can I Give? This song featured an ensemble of artists including Beyonce, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, Justin Timberlake, and so many more. Michael Jackson was able to raise $50 million for the victims of this tragic event. But then, of course, he had some dispute with his label, and they fought back and forth, and the song didn't come out until 2003.
United, we stand. And together we rock.
On October 21st, 2001, Michael Jackson gave the United We Stand What More Can I Give concert. This concert originated from RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. At the benefit concert, Michael Jackson said, "To the families of the victims of September 11th that are here with us tonight, you are not alone. You are in our hearts, you are in our thoughts, and you are in our prayers." So Michael Jackson spoke publicly about 9/11 with compassion and depth. He organized and performed a benefit concert. He wrote a charity anthem featuring a who's who of early 2000s pop, and he gave on-stage statements about unity and about this tragedy and its emotional toll. Yet he never personally talked about his brush with death that almost happened at the World Trade Center on that day. Seems bizarre. In times of tragedy, people look for ways to connect to the event. And I think celebrities is one way that we do that. You know, we know celebrities through their music or their acting or whatever else they do in their public lives. And there were celebrities on those flights on that day. David Angel was an Emmy-winning television producer. He was famous for co-creating Frasier and Wings, and he and his wife were on Flight 11. Barbara Olson was a political commentator that appeared regularly on CNN and Fox News and had best-selling books. She was on American Airlines Flight 77. There was another celebrity that was supposed to be on Flight 11, Mark Wahlberg. He canceled his flight the day before. We know this because the FBI had to talk to him because he was on the flight logs. Now, Seth MacFarlane, there's verifiable information that he was supposed to be on American Airlines Flight 11. He got drunk the night before, he overslept, and he missed his flight. Interestingly, the story Jermaine Jackson tells about Michael Jackson is very similar to Seth MacFarlane's story. The only difference is, instead of staying out late and getting drunk and being too hungover to fly, he was up late talking to Mom. It's a much sweeter story, being up until 3 a.m. and then oversleeping. So Michael Jackson didn't hear his alarm clock. This is probably the biggest red flag in this story. Michael Jackson, in the early 2000s, was not going to bed, setting the alarm clock, and then hoping it would wake him up so he could do what he had to do. This was a man that traveled with an entire entourage, with personal chefs and security and aides and business staff. Somebody else was in charge of waking up Michael Jackson that day. The story is that Michael Jackson was supposed to go into the World Trade Center to return some jewels that Elizabeth Taylor had worn at his concert, which had been performed on the Tuesday before September 11th and on September 10th. It's very possible that this meeting existed, but if Michael himself was supposed to be there and it was supposed to be on the morning of September 11th, it's really shocking that they never produced anything to back up this story. It's also important to note that Jermaine Jackson's book had several other inconsistencies. He talked about Michael Jackson having a private jet arranged to escape if the 2005 trial led to a conviction, which apparently wasn't true, and Jermaine himself walked that back when he did interviews later. He also told other stories about his father and about Michael's health that he had to walk back after the book came out. So I think this may have been one of those stories. Now, you may have heard the other story about Michael Jackson on 9/11, that Michael Jackson had to get a rental car and drove with Elizabeth Taylor and Marlon Brando across the country. This story is not true. It's a bunch of nonsense. Came up around 2011. Marlon Brando had been at Michael Jackson's concert. Michael did reach out to him, but Marlon Brando said he was going to stay in his hotel room and not go anywhere. Michael left New York City 2 days after the attacks on his tour bus and went over to New Jersey. Elizabeth Taylor was worried about her friend Debbie Reynolds, who was also in New York City, so she stayed with her. So the three of them were not in the car together. None of that ever happened. They did make a TV movie out of it. The story stuck around because it's quirky and oddly cinematic, and when you look at it, it's three people that you can imagine just about anything happening with, but it's all a myth. It's not true. And I think both of these stories are bogus. What do you think? We give a shout out to everybody on Patreon. I hope you guys go over there. You can join for free. I post some behind the scenes stuff, have a nice chat going with everybody. And then if you want to upgrade for just $3 a month, I send postcards to you every single month. And if you go all the way up to $9, you'll get an awesome envelope of retro goodness. Every single month comes with a newsletter. You'll love reading it. Huge shout out to Aaron Wester, Al Archer, Awkward But Awesome, Bucky and Oliver, Carson Loveridge, Dana Snyder, Jason Evans, Jason Yealy, Jarrett Rusky, Jamie and Tom, Jen, Matthew Chapin, Mike and Jess, my big brother Rob, and Nick Roche. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this one. Boy, this was a lot of fun. I'll see you next time.